As of this morning, the market's down in the last 24 hours, but we are net moving upwards on the week. And considering the month we've had in terms of price movement, this is completely fine. And despite the market index dropping under 1,000 points for the first time in about 2 years, the market and the buyers within it promptly disagreed, meaning we have found a floor and the sky's the limit.
And now for our Counter-Strike report. New York's very own Mike Water.
Welcome back to DE News. I'm your host, Mike Water 9. Dependent on the timeline, the next few days or the next week is the calm before the storm, with the armory loading and the amount of content having the potential to be one of the biggest armory rotations yet, which we'll get into. If you have any specific questions or you want to play in the 10-man on cash tonight, we'll be live on Twitch. I have some cash ready, open some dead hand terminals as well if the balance stops going pending, and I have a new mouse coming in the mail. I'm going to open that up, do a fun unboxing. Everyone likes those, right? So stay tuned. But with that out of the way, let's get into our news for the day. Starting off, of course, with the market cap. Again, we're going to use the market index. It's a better gauge of the system as a whole. And right now it sits at 1,013 points. A slight less than 1% decrease on the day so far. However, on the week, we are up. As I was saying previously, for context, we dropped below 1,000 points for the first time in about 2 years, which was promptly rejected and thus helping us find a new kind of support level and a pretty good entry point for yourself now that we've had a considerable bounce back and it has stayed the course for about a week or so. 1,000 is a very important number, right? Round numbers are typically where you find supports, not just in this market, but any market. But nonetheless, it is good that the free fall has stopped. We have found a point in which we can, relatively move sideways and have a good entry point without the worry of falling down too much, as you would need quite a bit of sell pressure to, I think, to get below that 1,000 price threshold. And right now, there are no catalysts pointing anywhere in that direction. There's a way higher chance of a buying wave as opposed to a selling wave at this point with the past month of market movement. And there are some reasons for that support level, right? First one, of course, the armory. The announcement of the discontinuations has kept prices relatively stable, as much like the rest of the market, it was falling quite a bit before the announcement was announced. Two, of course, China is back to a smaller extent. I believe most of their capital is waiting in the background for an update in regards to new collection skins, whatever it may be in that update. And a large one that I don't think many should have noticed, because you probably shouldn't have too many of these in your inventory, is the active weekly drops. Now, since we know how supply works within active weekly drops, we do expect prices to just kind of steadily decrease over time. But the rate in which they've decreased in the past month compared to the last 6 months to a year of price movement was much steeper and much more overstated than it usually was. So while I don't expect a full-on recovery in all parts of all collections, I do think the more higher tier, more desirable skins will probably see a bounce back, and we're starting to see inklings of that already. One of the top movers this week is the USP Sleeping Potion in Factory New and the M4A1S Party Animal in Factory New, both members of the Harlequin collection. I wouldn't buy them necessarily, but if you do like them as a play skin, it's a very good opportunity for you to do so. Right? I think the market kind of priced in the possibility of these active collections being discontinued earlier than we would expect. Right? In Go, it took like 7-8 years for some of these to rotate. But in CS2, they've been kind of frequently touching the active weekly drop pool, kind of leading people to believe, including myself, that there is a possibility that they focus on this a little bit more, especially with the community taking over the armory in this current rotation. If you do want to expose yourself to that possibility, I would obviously go with the safer choices, the 3 older collections within the active weekly drops: Radiant, Boreal, and Ascent. Nouveau Rouge is the only high tier pink that's 0 to 1 within those 3 collections, although the AWP or the M4 wouldn't be necessarily a bad play either. Even the AWP, the end from the Achroma collection, while even if they did remove one, it wouldn't be a Chroma or Harlequin, I imagine. The price of the AWP, the end, is relatively cheap considering it is a 0 to 1 skin, meaning a 3% drop rate chance, and it's the highest tier one within the collection, making actively dropping it very hard in and of itself. You probably need to trade up to it realistically if you want one of these skins. So that one looks kind of good to me right now, but I would only buy it if you're willing to lose money over the next however much time. It may never pan out. It's a risky endeavor, but if you like the skin, you don't mind playing with it, why not? Now, as we spoke about last week, but we didn't have the data to really go off of it yet, CS Float's database is back, meaning that we can track case openings again. Now we have a full week of data, so we can actually look at everything in depth. Unsurprisingly, the fever case is in the lead with 2.7 million cases opened in the last week. Now, some of that might be a little bit overstated, right? As I said, the float database was down for a month. So with all the new listings coming in, it may overstate how many were opened in the last week. However, we're not going to, try to estimate how many were opened over the last couple of weeks or so that were then put into the database this week. Because if it happened to the fever case, it happened to all of the other cases, meaning that it's probably somewhere in proportion. So we can look at it this week with these numbers, and it's probably decently accurate in terms of comparison. Revolution is number 2, Kilowatt number 3, Dreams and Nightmares number 4. But they are all very close, 2, 3, and 4. That clustering, that very, very tight difference between all of the cases does raise an interesting question over which one will be discontinued. Now, this is probably a different video for a different day. It probably isn't going to be Kilowatt. It's probably between Revolution and Dreams and Nightmares. But the way in which these openings are trending, not just this week, but the weeks prior before the database went down, it looks like Dreams and Nightmares will probably be the next one to go, right? The amount of openings steadily is decreasing, and it's more so the trend of the two cases as opposed to what the actual numbers are right now. Because as we know, Dreams and Nightmares has a different revenue schedule as opposed to every other case in the game. So it needs to be looked at in a different way. I'd call it a little bit too close to call, but I think we'll get our answer in time before that next case realistically leaves, which would be in September, going off of Valve's previous patterns. One surprising one is the Fracture case. Now, the Fracture case has been out of the active pool for 8 months now, I believe, and it still demands a heavy amount of respect in terms of case openings, right behind all of the active weeklies, even pulling ahead of Recoil, which was just recently discontinued 2 months ago about. Now, if you're not privy, Fracture was in the active pool for a very long time. It was in the active pool. Snakebite was added to the weekly pool, then removed before it. So it was in there for a very, very long time. I don't think this is necessarily going to bode well for the skin prices within it or the knife prices within it as well. And I do think it's going to take many more weeks and months of openings with these types of numbers for you to see any realistic long-term movement on the case price, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see there. The one thing worth flagging a little bit on these case opening statistics is the clutch case. Now, the clutch case is not the cheapest case by any means within all of the available cases to us. In fact, it has the same gloves as the Revolution case, which was the most open case this week. However, Clutch received around 1 million openings over the last week. Now, the reasoning beyond that doesn't really make too much sense, right? As I said, it shares gloves with Clutch. The skins aren't necessarily too demanded, but yet it still sits pretty high in the case opening standings. So I'm very interested to see what's going on there, if there'll be any weird price movement there with the skins, with the gloves themselves, because there is only 2 cases that house these gloves. Very interesting. Not sure what to make of it, but just thought I'd make note of it here. And with that, that'll bring us to the skins.com arbitrage play of the week. Now, skins.com has a very, very large selection of low float items that typically stand at around market price right now. I'm talking 0.16 field tested skins, 0.08 minimal wear skins, 0.01 factory new skins, and the price does not change dependent on float. Now, these span all types of collections, all types of weapons, so you do have to do a little bit of digging, but they're pretty much everywhere, and they go for market price. So not only can you arbitrage these on another third-party marketplace to sell them, or just go on the Steam market, or just do a trade up yourself, whatever one you prefer, it's going to be very easy to find profitable plays on Skins.com, today's sponsor. Skins.com is the newest sponsor on our channel. They have just released a P2P trading platform looking to compete with the best players in the space. If you don't want to wait that long, they do have an insta-sell feature on the site in which the rates are the best I've seen, just straight up. When the market is down, everything is on sale. And with the deals you're getting on Skins.com, you could start your position basically up 20 to 25%. Try out Skins.com and be a part of the future of CS2 skin trading. I will have a code soon, so stay tuned for that. In other news, the Dead Hand Terminal is starting to finally reach an equilibrium price, it looks like, starting to trend sideways, more or less around the price of a case plus a key, around $320 on Steam. A little bit less, of course, on third-party markets because of the 7-day hold in which you cannot use it. Now, that's pretty healthy for the long-term prospects of the case, but I'm also very interested to see how it does and how it fares when there's a new terminal, inevitably, I guess, at this point, or a new case, maybe, which we spoke about yesterday. Now, if you do want to buy some of these on your quest for gloves or reds, fillers, whatever it may be, always do your purchasing, not just on Steam, but on any marketplace on Tuesday and Wednesdays, right? Tuesday US, Wednesdays in EU. That's because that's when the weekly drops reset, and you can always see when a Tuesday is because there's a pretty stark price decrease on Tuesdays and Wednesdays because there's so many people getting their active weekly drops, listing them, meaning that they're constantly undercutting one another, meaning you have your best buying opportunity if you're in the market for one of these cases or terminals. Of course, that would make Monday, tomorrow, one of the worst days in which to purchase cases and terminals because of that same fact. Top movers, once again, for no reason whatsoever at this point, the MP7 Astrolabe from the graphic design collection. Now, the things it trades up to at this point don't even realistically make sense to use an Astrolabe in the filler. So obviously it's pure manipulation at this point. It's fine with me. I had around 55 of these bad boys, bought them for $1. I've been slowly selling as the price has gone up. I still have around 25 of them. They're at $30 right now. Probably get rid of like 15 more. I'll hold 10 just to see what the fuck happens. I've made my money there. I would not buy any of these right now. You'd have to be crazy to buy some of these at this price point for a light blue in a recently discontinued collection. But on the bright side for its supply, you can't really replace these, right? They're a light blue, so nothing trades up to it. And every time it's used as a filler, you can't replace it, right? It's constantly -1, -2, however many you use out of the supply every single trade up in which you do. But now the price is so high that do you even use it in a trade up? No fucking shot, right? So very weird there. Obviously it's manipulation, but it is just such a crazy price increase for a light blue that I'll probably hold on to like 10, but I'm gonna get rid of most of them at this point. I'm just here for the ride. Beyond that, old collections continue to reign, as we touched on in DE News China a couple days ago. These are relatively safe stores of value to hold your money in while we wait for the armory rotation, which I believe China is doing. Even if they don't move into the newer collections, they'll move into the ones that were just discontinued. I imagine to gauge how easy it would be to change the prices of these skins that were just removed. If I had to guess, I'd put like 60% the armory rotation happening this week, this Tuesday or Wednesday, 40% the next week, guaranteed next week if it doesn't come this week. My gut tells me this week because I feel like they only gave us 3 weeks back in October because it was the first rotation, so I won't, continue harping on it. I think it's more likely to happen this week, but if not this week, definitely next week. But Valve has been extremely active. They've been touching the game up pretty much every fucking day, which is awesome to see as just a lover of the game. Cash is back. It's the best fucking map ever. If you don't like it, you suck at it. Get better at it. You'll enjoy it. Promise. The armory prices are faring pretty well, right? Train 2025 is faring better than graphic design did, as graphic design saw a pretty slow, steady decrease until it was actually discontinued, meaning removed, and then prices started to go back up. Train kind of ate that dip pretty well. I expected the prices to go down 7 days after the announcement, but they really didn't. All the shit put on market was eaten up immediately or just held, which is very positive for the long-term prospects of that collection specifically. Sport and Field probably trended down a little bit. Overpass obviously trended down, which makes for good buying opportunities for Sport and Field and probably Overpass as well. Right? A lot hinges on this rotation. As we spoke about yesterday, whether we get a case or not. Do we get pets? The 2 new collections that we know are coming, the 2 new sticker collections that we know are coming. And one more thing that I'll leave for another video probably tomorrow, because that one deserves a deeper dive. I do think pets are coming, right? They have the animations added for Animgraph 2, so if it doesn't come in this rotation, I imagine next one, but I guess they're inevitable at this point. Now for our clip of the week, got a little 1v5 on Cash here. How to use Cash for the clip of the week, of course. Boy here rocking pretty sick combo. Vice Gloves, Be the Monster, Gamma Doppler. Gets all 5 kills here in like 8 seconds. That's what's up. Great clip, brother. 1v5. Sticker craft of the week. I got a couple. These are fantastic. This AK Ice Cold .0696969 float. Cum stickers. Great job, dude. Love it. Then we got the full Eco Whiteout loadout. Pretty sure this loadout costs more than a pistol armor in game. So pretty fucking sick, swagged out. Love everything about this loadout right here. And then the fake IBP on the Tech 9 Whiteout. Now this one looks really good, and this made me kind of sad because I tried to make a fake IBP on my AWP and it don't look like that. I don't know what I did wrong. Not going to change it, but just thought I'd add that. And that gets us into this week's watch list. Now, as I spoke about last week, it kind of just feels like everything's a decent play, and if you have any specific questions, feel free to ask on live stream or in a comment or in a DM, whatever you want. But if I had to give like a narrow option, I would probably say Overpass 2024 at this point, right? I think once the actual rotation happens and Train and Sport are removed, you'll probably see the end of the downtrend of Overpass 2024. Now, it might stay sideways for a while. No one's going to redeem that shit when there's 2 new collections in the game. So I don't even think supply will be hurt all too much because of it being in the armory over the next 6 months, like I stated when I thought that overpass wasn't going to get removed in the first place. But if you do want to buy in, I think there's smarter plays than others, right? The Negev is probably the cheapest 0 to 1 light blue. You have the Nova, which is a 0 to 1 filler blue. You have the Mac 10, which is 0 to 0.9, but it's sort of like a play skin play there. But if you want to play it safe under 0.063. Op Krakow, 0 to 1. Factory new or under 0.0875. Zeus, which is 0 to 0.8, but the Be the Monster is 0 to 0.8, so you can 1 to 1 it, so any factory new Zeus works. Factory new Be the Monster or minimal wear. Probably wouldn't go for field tested or below. Deagle Tilted will probably do well. M4 Wash Me will probably do well. Those are probably the best plays within that collection. Also, if you could put some buy orders down for the Fever case, right? It's kind of in the same situation as Overpass. The amount of skins coming in will probably just be insane forever, so I don't know if I'd look at those necessarily. But I'm sure if you place some buy orders, you can get some cheap Fever cases that you could either resell or just hold, start to accumulate over the next 6 months, in which it would be more reasonable to be removed then. That's it for the DE news today. Hopefully, see you guys later. Peace.